All right, Andrew, I'm going to start a timer on my phone.
This is something I could go on. I could do a whole hour.
Well, you've got 3 minutes to tell us cool stuff about the Haunted Mansion. Ready?
That'd be good.
Go.
So the Haunted Mansion was originally going to be this decrepit mansion. It was always in the map of Walt's original project. But Walt, when Disneyland was finally built, he was like, I don't want a decrepit mansion in my park. So that's how it became this sort of gothic New Orleans style that it is now in Disneyland, because he didn't want something ugly like tainting his park. So it did go through a lot of phases. It was originally going to be a walkthrough about a pirate captain, but they were like, we can't get enough people inside. Like, how are we going to get enough people in and out for a walkthrough? So then it was a ride with about a vampire and a werewolf. There was also going to be a pre-show called the Museum of the Weird, which would have had a talking chair and all this weird stuff walking around that you just hung out in this room and then went on the ride. The only person who liked this idea was Walt Disney. And then in the development of the ride, Walt Disney died. So everyone was like, now we don't have to make this fucking thing anymore. So it was then spearheaded by Mark Davis and Rolly Crump, who are two legendary Imagineers. And but they had two very different visions for the ride. So one of them wanted it to be really fun and goofy, and the other wanted it to be really scary. Instead of deciding which one it was going to be, they split it in half. That's why half the ride is super duper spooky and scary, and the other half is super duper fun and great. Now, when they were bringing it to Disney World, the ride itself is a clone, but in Disneyland, it's actually underground because they don't have enough room at Disneyland for it to be on the premises. So the stretching room is actually out of necessity. It's an elevator. In Disney World, they didn't have to do that. So in the stretching room in Disney World, the ceiling goes up rather than the floor going down, which is fun. But they also changed the facade because New Orleans Square doesn't exist in Walt Disney World. So they had to change it to a New York Hudson house from the Revolution, 1770. So that's fun. The Tokyo Disneyland one is actually an exact clone of the one in
1 minute.
In Hong Kong, they have the best version of the Haunted Mansion. It's called Mystic Manor. It had to be completely different because the culture in Hong Kong, they have a completely different relationship with ghosts. They respect ghosts. They don't want to wake or encounter ghosts. They respect their ancestors. So they made Mystic Manor, which is essentially the same thing because it's just an effect show. It's a magic show, just like the Haunted Mansion. Really, that's all it is. So they made Mystic Manor, and it's pretty much an updated version of what they were originally trying to do, which was showcase their best magic tricks and their best tricks. And it's this amazing, there's all these projections and great things. In Disneyland Paris, it's in Frontierland. So it's called the Phantom Manor, and it's about this guy who his daughter was betrothed, and then they both died, and he's getting revenge on her betrothed or whatever. And so in the end of it, instead of the graveyard, you go into a cowboy graveyard, and it's you see all these ghost cowboys drinking and partying it up. And Vincent Price from Thriller, they just took his laugh from Thriller and put it in.
He's done.
That was impressive, though. Come on. That was
good job, Andrew.
Can we do that again? That was really fun.
That you've got 3 minutes and 3, and we cannot interrupt. That's the rule. 3, 2, 1, go.
It's the early 2000s. You're walking into the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, and you're like, yeah, I want to go to World Showcase, but I want to do something at World Showcase I've never done before. Something I don't need the show in Canada. I don't need to go eat tacos and margaritas in Mexico. You know what I need? I want to go to Norway, right, Andrew?
And you know what you specifically want to do in Norway? You want to go on Maelstrom. You want to watch the movie that plays after Maelstrom.
Yes. We want the pre-show. We want the queue. We want the actual show. We want to go up to that thing where we think we're going over in the cave, and you're like, nah, man, we're going the other way.
Backwards in Maelstrom. So
backwards before Expedition Everest. Maelstrom was first.
Oh my God, Stephanie. Maelstrom really digs into the history of Norway, right? And the lore of Norway, the folklore of Norway in terms of their relationship with trolls. Trolls is big. And that's what makes Frozen Ever After so poignant, right? Is because the Frozen Ever After really focuses on the trolls as well, and that big troll guy in the gift shop. You're
talking my language. Let's say I didn't know a lot about Norway pre-Maelstrom. And you know what I'm going to say? One of the biggest cultural phenomenons of this entire past few decades were, well, both of them, Jonathan Groff was in. One was Hamilton. The other one was, let's say it together, Frozen.
Frozen.
Okay. And I don't know, would Frozen have happened without Maelstrom? I don't know. I think
that's a great question. Would we as a culture have been interested in Norway as a place were it not for Maelstrom.
No, and I know, Andrew, I know you, I know all of us Disney fans here know that Disney is constantly looking for an IP to pop into one of those World Showcase pavilions. And they saw that Norway there. What's the bread? What's the bread everyone loves in Norway? Come on. It has the cream on it in the chat. I know someone's here. Someone has it.
The cookies. That's a day, right? You go to that bakery, you get one of those cookies that is the Viking. This is an early 2000s day. You get one of those cookies that is the little Viking thing. You
bread!
Maelstrom.
Bread is the bread! Someone said it in the chat. Yes.
That's
what I was going to say is the thing about Maelstrom is that it's the denouement of a moment in Norway, because you can see Akershus, the underrated princess breakfast. Everyone's lining up at Cinderella's royal table, and no, I need a little moment at Akershus. And then you go, let's break it down. I'm giving you this floor right now. You get,
and then you go into the store, and look, there's that big troll guy, and look, there's KidCot Fun Stop right here in Norway.
You get your passport out. You get that girl being like, Andrew, this is something in Norway. And
I do want to say, for those of you who have no freaking clue what we're talking about, go on Frozen Ever After, take a look for the puffins. The puffins are from Maelstrom. They are still there. There's a little Easter egg, and just an Easter egg itself is the trolls' presence in Frozen Ever After, because the trolls started with Maelstrom. They're
this
different.
Whole thing, Elsa's powers, everything about Frozen, Maelstrom.
Maelstrom. Maelstrom made Frozen. Don't thank the Lopez's. Don't thank Disney. Thank Maelstrom. Thank your Norwegian ancestors. Thank you very much.
You're done.
Oh my
That was remarkable.
fucking god! Wow.
Guys.
The deepest cut in the
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Expedition Everest shows a side of Asia that we don't really get to see unless we go, right? It's not what we imagine, and that's what really a lot of Animal Kingdom does, is show the trekkier side that I never really even knew about until that ride, which is why it's educational. And Joe Rohde, the Imagineer, who sort of spearheaded everything at Animal Kingdom, not specifically Expedition Everest, but he was, of course, the head of Expedition Everest, because Animal Kingdom is really his story, it's his park. He went online recently, he's been doing these posts on Instagram talking about the details in each ride. The biggest controversy of Expedition Everest is, of course, Disco Yeti.
Yeti.
So if you look up Disco Yeti, you'll find this. Here's what Disco Yeti is that if you can find these amazing videos of there was going to be this giant Yeti animatronic in Expedition Everest inside the mountain, and it was going to be so cool. And there are videos of it, and it premiered. Like when the ride opened, the thing was moving and it was there. And it's the coolest animatronic that was made up until that point, for sure. I would argue that there are ones that are cooler if you look at the Navi River Shaman, but that was the coolest one up until that point. What was happening was that they had to, in order for the Yeti, it was so big, in order for it to work, they really had to like integrate it into the structure of the building of the mountain. So the mountain was literally falling apart when this thing was moving. The foundation of the mountain was cracking and it was not sustainable. So it's called Disco Yeti because they were like, okay, how can we make this scary? They positioned it as close as it could possibly safely be to the car. It is really close. It's still scary. And they just put a strobe light there.
Yeah.
It's not scary. It's a lot less cool than like you go on this awesome roller coaster and then you're going backwards and then, oh my God, there's this giant fucking Yeti thing. But that's Disco Yeti. And Joe Rohde has been on record many, many, many times saying, we're going to fix the Yeti. That is like, yes, it's not our number one most pressing issue, but it is my number one priority is to fix the Yeti in Expedition Everest. Like it was so cool that they wanted to work. And it really was. Like, if you look up the videos of the original Yeti, it's the coolest thing. But the ride is along with everything in Animal Kingdom, I think you really have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to the story of the whole. It's a story. It's not a park like the Magic Kingdom is a park where you're like, oh my God, let's go on Space Mountain, whatever. It's more, you have to pay attention to the stories that are being told, because the way that Joe Rohde describes it is like you're looking at a lamppost and you're like, there's no way a person could have put that there on purpose. But they did. Everything was so incredibly deliberate, and they went all around the world to learn about these cultures and buy things that you could only find in this market in India and in this market in Africa. So it's as accurate as it could be, and that absolutely extends to Expedition Everest. And you get some great views of Pandora when you're going up, which was really exciting when it was being built. Done.
Yay!
Good job, Andrew. Well, Andrew, I'll start the timer.
Okay, Splash. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Hang on. All right, Splash Mountain. Here we go. Okay, here we go. And go.
So it's kind of crazy how Splash Mountain has taken on a life of its own beyond the film that it's based on. But of course, it is based on Song of the South, which was a very, very it was controversial at the time. There were riots and stuff about the movie. It was not critically acclaimed because it's a very racist movie, and I could get into why it's racist. I will choose not to. If you'd like to know, you can look it up. But it's based on a movie called Song of the South that is very racist, and it's like characters from the movie. Is the ride racist? Yes, it is. There are bad representations of what some would imagine to be like it's racist, but it's fine. I'm not one to say it's fine. I'm gonna stop talking about how it's racist. Splash Mountain, they needed some more thrill rides. Michael Eisner really wanted to appeal. This was under Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner is sort of notoriously the worst thing that happened to the Disney parks. Do I agree? Not necessarily. But Michael Eisner was the CEO of Disney at the time, and he really wanted to appeal to the teenagers more, because if you think about it, at the time, Disney really did not have many thrill rides. So they wanted to make a thrilling water ride. They were going to call it something else. I don't remember what it was, but he said, no. Call it Splash Mountain. And the reason for that is because the ride was opening at the same time that the movie Splash, starring Tom Hanks, was opening. That is true. He wanted synergy. Many people recently have seen this, but I recommend that you look it up. There's a video of a commercial from Splash Mountain's opening. That's a bunch of dudes like rapping, and like they're really hot, and they're like, when you're going down a ride and you're shooting a slide, and it's like, oh my god, what is happening? This is so not on the ride. It's like, how do you do? So that's Splash Mountain. It took them a really long time to figure out how to do that. That kind of drop had never been done before that big. So the cars kept getting flooded when they were testing it, like over and over and over again. The cars were getting flooded until they figured out, if you look at the log that you're in, it curves in the front because all that water goes like inside of the curve and splashes back. That's why you don't really get that wet until after, because all that water is flying back. So like you go down, you're like, and then you get wet. Interesting. What else is there to say about Splash? I will say this. Splash Mountain came after America Sings, which was a show in Tomorrowland with all these like American, eagle animatronics. A lot of the animatronics in Splash Mountain, in that last scene on the Zippity Lady on the boat, are taken straight out of America Sings. Literally just like they plonk. You look at the birds, like look at videos of America Sings, look at videos of Splash Mountain. It's the same animatronics. They're just there, which is scary because a woman died in America Sings. And one day I'll talk about that another time, but I used to fear that a lot, that like they saw someone die and now I felt like they were watching me and I was going to die. Anyway, that's
done. Good job. Sure.
That was amazing.
Wow. Andrew,
Isn't that something?
I can't talk really about anything.
have you seen the docu-series on Disney Plus about all the Disney rides?
I think I've watched it twice, actually.
The history of the parks, really.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Everyone, Andrew has 3 uninterrupted minutes. Wait for the final return.
Hi,
yes,
Joey.
hello, welcome back. Andrew has 3
Stop.
uninterrupted minutes to talk about Country Bear Jamboree. We cannot interrupt him.
Sorry.
And here goes the timer. Are you ready, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, Country Bear Jamboree.
So the Country Bear Jamboree actually has a history of a lot of controversy because, it opened, it was this iconic attraction, but over the years, they noticed that the attention span of children was getting shorter and shorter and shorter, right? So a couple of years ago, I don't remember exactly when, I think it was around 2015, 2016, the Country Bear Jamboree was abbreviated. It was shortened. There were things that were cut, things that were changed, costumes that were changed. This, canonically in Disney history, is not always the best thing when you rewrite a story that is beloved. But I would have to argue that the Country Bear Jamboree is only improved by the changes. I think it's a cleaner, quicker show. You don't have 20 to 30 minutes to see when you're in Disney World. You want to do other stuff. You're at the Country Bear Jamboree. It's not a big attraction. You've got other stuff to do in Frontierland. But you also have to talk about the Country Bear, the holiday incarnations and the camping incarnations, which is what it was for a long time in Disneyland. It has never changed in Disney World, but in Disneyland there was like a squid for the holiday one, or an octopus character. Unfortunately, of course, the Country Bear Jamboree in Disneyland no longer exists. The Country Bear Jamboree in Disneyland was replaced by Winnie the Pooh. But a really fun and also absolutely horrifying tidbit of information about the fact that Winnie the Pooh replaced the Country Bear Jamboree is that on the wall where oh my god, I hate that, like Buck and the bison, you know, the people on the wall, the taxidermied heads on the wall that sing along, they left them. They're still there. So when you're on the Winnie the Pooh ride and you get to one of the final scenes, if you turn around in your honeypot, they are there with no light on them. They are not moving. They're a little closer together. So it's clear that it was done with some effort. It is horrifying. You can look it up on YouTube. It's there. I've seen it with my own eyes many times. It's nightmare fuel. It's really terrifying. So that's the other thing. Now, of course, we can talk about the Country Bear Jamboree as a whole. The Country Bear Jamboree is an experience. I'd say it's one of my favorite smells in Disney World is the Country Bear Jamboree. It smells like exactly what the Country Bear Jamboree should smell like. Something that is, what am I trying to say? Of course, when you talk about the Country Bear Jamboree, you can't talk about the Country Bear Jamboree without talking about Big Al. Big Al is sort of the mascot of the Country Bear Jamboree and also the villain of the Country Bear Jamboree. If you really think about it, they're trying to defeat Big Al in the closing number. But he plays Blood on the Saddle. That's his big number. And there's a store across the street called Big Al's. The Country Bear Jamboree characters actually do come out, like costume mascot characters do come out sometimes, but it's very rare. So if you're in Disney World and you're walking by the Country Bear Jamboree and oh my god, look, it's someone from the Country Bear Jamboree, one of the ugly freaking Jamboree bears, go take a picture because that is a rare occurrence. And I know they say like avoid the characters, and yes, like you don't necessarily need to meet like Elsa every time you go to Disney World, but like if you're seeing a rare character, like you should absolutely go for it. And that is my time on the Country Bear Jamboree. Thank you.
Wow,
man, we didn't even get into the movie.
Oh, I should have talked about the movie. It's Almost Famous, but with bears.
Gotta make yourself prepared for 3 minutes on the clock.
Okay, here we go.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
So flashback to around 1963, the 1964 World's Fair is coming up, and Disney has a deal with the 1964 World's Fair and a bunch of different organizations to build multiple pavilions. So one of them is, it was called Progress Land, and that's where the Carousel of Progress came from. You also had great moments with Mr. Lincoln, which was the first big like audio animatronic of Abraham Lincoln. This is like began the new wave of audio animatronics. You also have the Enchanted Tiki Room, all of these amazing attractions happening. They make a deal with Pepsi-Cola, and they're looking for some kind of idea, and they sort of have the idea to make it a celebration of UNICEF, the organization UNICEF, and to make it a celebration of nations all around the world. So they come up with this sort of idea of you're going through the different countries in a boat ride. Now, a boat ride in an amusement park, this is something that we're very familiar with now. This had never been done before. There had never been a boat ride in this kind of way, in this kind of mass production. So first they tried one song and it wasn't working with the Sherman Brothers who wrote music for Mary Poppins and all these things. They were trying to find the hit song for the ride to tie it all together. And finally, the Sherman Brothers, I think it was their secretary, said, it's a small world. And that's actually how it happened. And they wrote the song "It's a Small World," and that was how they knew what the ride was going to be. So it was all these little dolls. I'm sure you know what "It's a Small World" is. Literally, while they were prepping the ride, which, by the way, the Imagineers had a lot on their hands at the time. It was not a huge organization like it is today. So they were already making great moments with Mr. Lincoln and Carousel of Progress and Tiki Room and all these rides. So they would push Walt through the ride on the boat because they hadn't filled it with water yet. So while they were prepping it, the Imagineers would literally push Walt Disney through the ride on a boat, which is amazing. Flash forward to a couple of years later, the ride opens in Disneyland. They didn't know that any of this was going to happen. They didn't know that any of the rides were going to move to Disneyland. They thought it was going to happen at the World's Fair. That was going to be it. Walt moves to Small World, just picks it up, brings it to Disneyland. It's outside in this beautiful facade. Then it opens with Walt Disney World in 1971, except that the facade is indoors. That's really the only real difference. A couple little small ones in the ride. There is an It's a Small World in every Disney park around the world. The most different one is in France. There's a woman named Mary Blair who's an iconic Imagineer. She did all the artwork, and she did a lot of the artwork for like Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan. She has that sort of pastel look. They didn't use her art for that incarnation of the ride for the first time in any incarnation of the ride, which is okay. And it's also one of the only ones that has the Middle East as a country on the ride, which is The big controversy with It's a Small World is that in Disneyland they added Disney characters a couple years ago. This was the first time that IP was really used in the parks, and the first time that a classic ride was changed. People were angry. People rioted. There were news articles that were saying like people are pissed, like really, really mad. Then it happened, and people were like, "Oh, actually, this is pretty cool." And now when you go on the ride, you can see Disney characters, and they update. They put Toy Story characters. They put Brave characters. That's what they did with It's a Small World. That's It's a Small World. There you go.
Really, really great work, Pal.
How do you have
That interesting? I know a lot about it, so it's okay.
How does he know that?
Get it. And the trick here is, everyone, we just want you to know we could make the whole screen only Andrew,
It's
but
part
we
of
are
it.
not going
The
to.
joy is seeing the light leaving your eyes as
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
Has seen the light leaving our eyes.
You will
I'm
get
good.
bored. All right, Andrew, it's time. And remember, everyone, we cannot interrupt. 3, 2, 1, go.
Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. It was Walt Disney's big, ambitious project. As part of the Florida project, it was always going to be there. It was going to be a community. Then he died. So they were like, that's stupid. We're not going to do that. They needed rides. They needed a mascot. And what is Epcot about? Epcot, in its original incarnation, is about education. It's about imagination. And they needed a mascot that exemplified imagination. In came Figment and the Dreamfinder. They created this concept for this ride called Journey into Imagination. It had Figment and the Dreamfinder. The Dreamfinder is this big guy with like a beard, and he's got this big dream machine that he drives around. And then Figment's this little purple dragon guy. And they were working on this ride literally up until the very last second of Epcot being opened. It wasn't ready totally, the whole pavilion, but it was this beautiful, beautiful pavilion with like a play area that Michael Jackson did a photo shoot in once, and like all this movie that was filmed to showcase the ride stuff before it had happened. And the guy playing the Dreamfinder in every video, and the first one to do it as a costume character around the parks, is Joe Rohde, a legendary Imagineer, the guy behind Animal Kingdom, like all of Animal Kingdom. That's his whole brainchild. He is a genius, and he was the original Dreamfinder that carried around the little puppet Figment. Now, Figment was a huge hit, and the way that the ride worked was that you were in a car and you kind of went around this building, kind of like a reverse Carousel of Progress, or maybe just regular Carousel of Progress, a little bit, but a bit more of a dark ride. The way that the ride system was working, it was destroying the infrastructure of the building. So it was slowly deteriorating over a series of years. They knew they needed to revamp it and draw some more traffic because it was seen as a kiddie ride. So they revised it to be a new ride called Journey into Your Imagination. And people were not happy with Disney because there was no Figment anywhere to be found in the ride. So it was just like about like the science behind imagination, and people were so mad at them about it. So they were like, you know what? Actually, this is bad. This is like the first time in history, and pretty much the only time in history, that Disney did something and then the fans said what you did was bad, and they said, yeah, you're right, we're gonna change it. That's like never happened before. But they went back and made a Journey into Imagination with Figment, bringing Figment back into the ride. However, there was no Dreamfinder. This is the incarnation we have today. Instead, it's, oh my God, I'm totally dropping on his name. He's the guy from Monty Python. But he plays, it's Eric Idle and Figment, and they do it together. And it's brilliant, but also it's not the original. So when people ask me what Disney ride I would like to bring back or create, it's bring back original Figment, bring back that original Journey into Imagination, but give us the state-of-the-art technology that we've come to expect, because that ride encapsulated all of Disney, which is follow your imagination. You have your own imagination. Thank you very much. That is my time.
Bravo!
Bravo.
Oh,
Every episode.
Start that timer, baby.
The Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. Let's talk about it. First, its history. It came with Tomorrowland. That actually might not be true. Don't quote me on that. But the People Mover was it's not really meant to be anything. So when people tell me it's their favorite ride, I'm like, fuck you, dude. Let me say that first of all, because it is a ride whose success is contingent on the success of other rides. It goes through, you're going through Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear, probably Tron soon, because I know the People Mover is down for heavy renovation, and that comes at the same time as Tron Light Cycle Run opening in Walt Disney World. So you'd think that those two things would coincide. That being said, the People Mover is not its own ride. It stops all the time, which it has to, and it should, but like you're in the dark. Like it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It mostly exists as an image, right? You're walking through Tomorrowland, and there's this thing just going around, and you're like, that's the future. That's why the People Mover exists. Now, we have to talk about what happened to the People Mover in Disneyland. Because
What happened to the People Mover at Disneyland?
Will, I'm so glad you asked. Enter Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner was really, really, really bad for the parks. He did a lot of bad things, such as opening Disney's California Adventure, which historically sucks. It's better now, but it sucked back then. The People Mover, he was like, we need more thrill rides. These teenagers, they're not coming to Disneyland. The teenagers, they don't like Disneyland. So they opened like Videopolis and like stuff like that in California Adventure, but they needed more in Disneyland.
Harry's Hollywood Adventure.
No interruption.
That's right. Superstar Limo. That's true. So they replaced People Mover with Rocket Rods, a high-speed roller coaster that was going to change everything. Except that the problem with the People Mover is that it goes straight and then it turns and then it keeps going straight. So this roller coaster was just you guys in like a car going like, ah! Ah! And it's historically known as one of the worst rides of all time, also including Superstar Limo, which you had referenced as Drew Carey's Hollywood Adventure, which is essentially what it is. That's right. So that's what happened to the People Mover in Disneyland. And then Rocket Rods closed because everyone hated it universally. It was awful. And the People Mover also closed in Disneyland. But you can go and still see the vehicles around. And they use the vehicles for some other fun stuff, like I think maybe some shelving in Buzz Lightyear, but maybe that's from something else. It's probably from something else. But the People Mover is still alive and well in Walt Disney World, and it is going under major refurbishment. What is the major refurbishment? We don't really know, but it's exciting. I have a personal vendetta against the People Mover because of what I said at the beginning, but also because there was a thing that Disney parks did called March Magic. It ran for 3 years, and then they're like, we can't keep doing this, where people on the internet would vote for their favorite Disney rides every year, and it was like a March Madness bracket, and the People Mover won. The People Mover won? Over every other ride? It's the People Mover. It's not the best ride ever. Shut up. End of my thing.
Wow. I love that.
Two things. First thing, Thomas, I do apologize for snapping at you, but there are rules.
No, that was so funny.
There
no
are
interruptions.
There are no rules.
Trust me, I've been snapped at for talking too much before. It's okay.
Is it over?
Number two, Will Rowland saying no. Just leaving. Number three, Morgan consistently stunned at that we weren't kidding. Number four, Lauren, the eyes glazing over. My favorite thing that happens is everybody's really engaged at first, and then after like a minute, their eyes glaze over. And also, let it be known, Andrew, we lost 40 viewers.
That's the best. I'm never gonna stop doing it, guys. This is I do actual. This is a real thing. So my friends and I do like a Zoom every night. We call it the party line, where we just like get together and hang out. And for a while, like over the summer when it was like at its peak and like we'd get like 10 people a night, I did like Disney PowerPoint presentations for them. They didn't want me to.
Gosh.
But I had full PowerPoints. Maybe I'll present them to all of you one day.
So here we go. Put 3 minutes on the clock. And 3, 2, 1.
Disney World is a city. Am I wrong? No, I'm not. And in Disney World, in addition to the parks, you have downtown Disney, now known as Disney Springs. Enter Michael Eisner, CEO of Disney, for a time. It was, Walt, and then it was Eisner a little bit later, and he sucked. He was really bad at his job. He turned the company around. The Renaissance happened under him, but that was more Jeffrey Katzenberg than anything else. That didn't have to do with Michael Eisner. So Michael Eisner was the CEO of Disney, and he was like, we need to branch out. We need to make some kind of chain. Chuck E. Cheese was really big at the time. They tried to make like a play area kind of thing that was a real thing. I don't remember what it's called, but they licensed it out and it opened in a couple places and people were like, oh no, this is terrible. And hi Pete. And that didn't happen. And then he was like, let's do technology. Let's do the future. Enter Disney Quest. They opened Disney Quest. I believe it was first in downtown Disney. It might have been in Chicago first, but they opened it in downtown Disney. This was the cutting edge of technology. And at the time, it really was. Disney Quest, I went there every single year. It's like, was my favorite place in Disney World, but it sucks. It had a bunch of like virtual reality where you had to sit in a chair and there was this big fucking visor thing that was like this big and you had to like tighten it in the back and it was super uncomfortable and definitely not hygienic. And like you have like a stick and you're just like, it was awful. There was the Jungle Cruise River Raft ride, which was on a big inflatable water thing and you had a paddle with wheels on it and you'd go like this. on the water. It was dumb. You should look up videos of it. It was crazy. They opened it in Chicago. When Disney opens things in other places, the people in the city generally are not happy about it. They're usually like, this is not, we don't want the mouse in our city. This is Chicago or whatever, wherever it was. So people were not happy about it, and it did very, very poorly. They closed it very quickly. However, Disney Quest in Disney Springs or Downtown Disney at the time did not close for many years. While it didn't close, it also wasn't touched. So you had this fucking thing where you can get virtual reality in like your house now, and you could go to this place and have the worst like Aladdin themed virtual reality ever. And it was amazing. I loved it. And there was all sorts of I could talk about all the rides there, but I have 40 seconds. So what happened to Disney Quest? It's been replaced, now that Disney Springs is open, with the NBA experience, which has gotten pretty much universally poor reviews. It's kind of like using the next cutting edge technology to like give you like what it's like to be an NBA player. I haven't been. I won't go off of my principles. I'm loyal to Disney Quest, and I miss her very much every day. I think that was pretty good. I have 5 more seconds. Go watch a video of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at Disney Quest. It's very good. And they opened Fix It Felix there also. There you go.
I do love Fix It Felix.
They opened a real arcade game. Fix It Felix premiered at Disney Quest, and it was great. And I played it a lot, and I love Disney Quest. And I have to stop talking now. I hope that was good. I'm usually a lot more eloquent, but there's not much to say about Disney Quest.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was tolerable, though.
That was meant to be like an entertaining part of the thing.
27 people left our stream.
We
I think
lost
3
27.
minutes is pretty generous.
27 people left.
Usually,
I felt no rush at all.
They usually come back though, like in a little bit. Like they leave when I start, and then they come back. The real thing that happens.
I like to think that it's an organized group of people who are like, at this moment, we leave.
All right, everybody. Andrew's going to talk for 3 minutes about Disney World, and we're not allowed to interrupt him whatsoever. Okay.
Okay.
3. People paid $300 for this. 3, 2, 1. Go.
So Halloween in the Disney parks is a tricky thing because at least in America, you have Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. You don't want something spooky at Disney World because you got a bunch of kids going there. So they do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which starts like earlier every year because a lot of people love it. And it is really, really great. I've been in August and gone to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. But something that they do with Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party in all the parks is ride overlays. And these are, I always like these. Sometimes they're contested. Here are a few of them that I will now talk about now. One of them that they used to do in Disneyland, and I'm not sure if I don't know that they still do it, but is Ghost Mountain, which is because in Disneyland Space Mountain, all the stars and stuff, a lot of them are projections. So they changed the projections to be like scary ghost guys. And I don't mean like white sheet kind of thing. I mean like this huge green face being like, it's scary as hell and it's rad. And they changed the soundtrack to be real spooky and Halloweeny. And then also in Disneyland, I think it's also in Tokyo and maybe one other park, there's the Haunted Mansion Holiday, which stays through the holiday season, which turns it into a Nightmare Before Christmas ride, and it is so fucking cool. You should totally go check out a video of it. It's the Haunted Mansion, but it's mixed with Christmas, and people are like, it's Halloween, I just want to go on the regular Haunted Mansion, please. But that's why they keep it in Disney World. They keep it regular Haunted Mansion. Theoretically, they should be able to do Haunted Mansion Holiday in Disney World because Haunted Mansion in Disney World was cloned and put in Tokyo, and they do it in Tokyo. So theoretically, they could do Haunted Mansion Holiday, but they don't because one place still has Haunted Mansion. There are a couple other like spooky things they'll do. At Space Mountain in Disney World, they'll turn off all the lights, like no stars or anything. It'll be real dark. It's really, really cool. There's also some haunted houses they do at one of the parks, and I'm not going to say which one because I'm going to forget, but they do haunted walkthroughs kind of similar to like a Universal Halloween Horror Nights thing. They'll do haunted walkthroughs that are like kind of Disney themed of like, it's the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, but he's going to like eat you, real scary stuff, these mazes. And those are kind of fun. But other than that, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party kind of changes every year in terms of what it is. They also do some seasonal events. We did something called Villains Night. That was something where they just have villains go up on stage, and that's kind of similar to what they'll do in Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I'm definitely forgetting some things, but a lot of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, it is a ticketed event, but the music around the park changes, the aura around the park changes. There is trick-or-treating, and some scarier stuff, obviously, in some of the other parks. I have 23 seconds. What am I going to say about Halloween in Disney World, in the Disney parks? I don't think I even have anything else, but this is part of it, is that I have to speak for the full 3 minutes.
What about the thingy, the parade?
Oh, yeah. There's the Boo to You parade. Thank you, Olivia. There's the Boo to You parade, and there's the Headless Horseman. He opens it every year. He's really, really cool, and Oogie Boogie's there sometimes, and I think that's cool. Okay, that was all right. Thank you. Wow, I forgot about Boo to You. I always forget one thing.
Ooh, what an atrocity.
Yeah, terrible, right?
Okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, everyone, it's gonna start. You take a look at my. This is a legitimate. This is real. Okay, I'm gonna start. We are not allowed to interrupt or talk. Let's try. Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Michael Eisner really thought Disneyland Paris was going to be his win, right? He was like, this is it. This is my park. Walt had all these parks that had these different things. The most magical place on earth, the happiest place on earth. Michael Eisner, I want to make the most beautiful place on earth. I want to make the most beautiful Disney park. In a way, he did do that when he built Disneyland Paris. It's gorgeous. It's one of the biggest gardens in Paris. It's the most visited tourist destination in France. It's amazing, except no, it's bad. It's not good. It was the worst one. They did a bad job. It's better now. And why is that? They built a second park because contractually they had to, Walt Disney Studios. So they were like, let's just do a dumb studio park that has never gone well for us. We did Hollywood Studios. Nobody really liked it. Let's just do it bad. And it's fine. We just have to contractually. So they made this shitty park called Walt Disney Studios that is like the sister park to Disneyland Paris. And there was like really nothing there, like references to bad movies that nobody cares about. Like it wasn't good. They were like, so then Bob Iger comes in. He's like, I gotta do something about this. This, like, we can't have this. And so now they're doing all these things. But the first sort of thing was they made a Toy Story Land at Walt Disney Studios. And then they were like, France, we got this movie, Ratatouille. Boom, stick it in. So they made this ride. It's called Ratatouille. I think it's L'Aventure Totalement Remis, I believe it's called. It's its own little area with like Gusteau's and a restaurant, and they made this Ratatouille ride. It is a trackless motion system, which means that there's no like track the way that like the Haunted Mansion has a track. Like it just uses like Bluetooth basically to like drive around and spin around. You're in a little mouse. You shrink down to the size of a rat. And you go on this adventure with Remy. It's in 3D, or it was. I think they might have changed it. And it's huge. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like when my family went to Paris. It was awesome. And we went on this ride, and it was like, okay, like the only good thing in this park besides like this other Finding Nemo coaster they made. So now they're like, we want to do more of this kind of thing in Epcot. We want to bring in Florida and Walt Disney World. We want to bring IP, intellectual property, to Epcot in these lands because it's fun and people like Disney. So they built this Ratatouille ride. It was supposed to open, I believe, in spring of 2020 or summer of 2020. Obviously, that did not happen. It's built. It's done. It is fully done. The construction walls are down as of a couple of days ago. But nobody can go on it because if they open a ride right now in COVID, then it's going to be attracting all these people to this one side of the park. And they can't have all these people gathering. So it's just sitting there waiting. But when it opens, holy shit, people give way more of a shit about Ratatouille now than they did when it was going to open if there wasn't a pandemic. So I think that's pretty interesting. And I think it's going to be amazing. It's a clone of what it was in Paris, except in English mostly more. And that's it. That's Ratatouille, right?
Wow.
Remember, no interrupting.
And go.
The Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is a ride that is a roller coaster, and it is in Magic Kingdom. So in Magic Kingdom, there are sections like Fantasyland and New Fantasyland. If I'm not mistaken, and being an expert, I'm not, surely. It is located in New Fantasyland. So this ride has a really, really thrilling line, actually. You wait on the line, and there are so many big gems and jewels for you to touch with your hands, and they'll go, ooh, and you touch them, and then a lot of times you'll see a child kind of like touching it with their mouth, and you watch the mom not discipline the child enough, and I'll be sitting over there saying, what the fuck are you doing, kid? Please, oh my God, put your tongue in your mouth. You can't lick that. And the parents are just kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, my child is a germ. So anyway, so that's on the line, and you're waiting online, and then sometimes it squirts water, and you're like, ooh, I'm on the line. And then so you get close to the ride and you say, wow, this is a mine train. And I don't really know the lore as to why we are taking this journey. Oh, I see. Sis has had enough. So you take the ride and you go on this ride, and it's a really fun ride because it kind of goes left and right, like you're on a train while you're going straight and up and down. It's very, very fun. It's very smooth ride too. I appreciate how smooth it is. But then there's a spot where you go up the the like chicken, you know what I'm saying? When you're going up, there's that part that's really, really nice. Let me. You're back. Okay, and then there's this part where you're going up, and then all of the dwarves go like hi ho, and it's really, really fun. And then you go down, and you're like woo. And so anyway, then when you finish it, you see all of everybody partying in a house together, and then the witch is right outside with an apple, and it's really, really fun. So the history of this ride comes from a guy named Bobby Moynihan, and Bobby Moynihan he created this ride.
10 seconds.
On a break from Saturday Night Live, and Bobby Moynihan said, well, I need something else to do during SNL, so I'm going to design this ride, and it's going to be really, really fun. Sis, how'd I do?
Time's up, sis. Fix it.
You actually did really well. My internet might be a little ghetto, but the thing that you got wrong was you said Fantasyland and New Fantasyland or Adventureland or something like that. The 5 lands of Disney World, Magic Kingdom is Main Street, USA, Liberty Square, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, Frontierland, and Fantasyland. Those are the 5. And I'm really happy that you brought up the animatronics at the end because I think it's really clever. But I love the mine train, and it's really fun to go on at dark night. So yeah,
I agree. Hi-ho! And also, everybody, I just want to say really quickly, we finished that up. Thank you so much for your contributions to that, sis. To be clear, everyone, Bobby Moynihan did not create that ride. I just want to make it as clear as I can.
Oh, he did not, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that Bobby Moynihan did. I think I did pretty good, and I
think he did too.
I think that Andrew's whole deal is a lie.
There you go.
And,
also, Rise.
We are not allowed to say anything. We just got to sit here. We just gotta. Can't believe. Good. All right, Will. You really look like Will really looks like somebody's uncle right now. And
or a
all right.
person.
All right. 3 minutes on the clock, Andrew. About you said Fantasmic.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Now, here's my personal fascination with the history of Fantasmic, because I'll talk about the story because truly I don't know as much about the history as I'd like to. But Fantasmic in Disneyland is in New Orleans Square. What else is in New Orleans Square? The Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, these kinds of rides. It's on the Rivers of America in New Orleans Square. Now, originally, it was going to be a Haunted Mansion nighttime spectacular show. That as they were pitching a nighttime spectacular, it was going to be a Haunted Mansion show. And it was going to be so fucking cool, and I'm so mad that it didn't. I love Fantasmic, so I'm not mad that it didn't happen. But oh my god, it would have been so cool. Now let's get into Fantasmic. What it would be, what it is now. Fantasmic is on the Rivers of America in Disneyland, and it's in Disney World at Hollywood Studios. Those are the only places you can find it now. It was in Tokyo Disney Sea when it opened, and that had the best version of Fantasmic because it was like so on the water. You should watch videos. It's incredible. But because entertainment is such a landmark in Tokyo of the parks and what they do there, they keep swapping out the shows all the time and updating them and changing them. So that version of Fantasmic doesn't exist anymore. It's a totally different show that they have on the water now, which by water, I mean everything's water at Tokyo Disney Sea. That's the point. In Disneyland, there's a whole sequence. So it's all very sort of disconnected and weird because it's Mickey's like dream / nightmare and villains are trying to manipulate him. It used these water projections, which was really the first time that this happened, where they're projecting stuff on water. The music is amazing. The Fantasmic exit music, I did try to make it the dance that I did with my mom at my bar mitzvah. I wanted it to be the Fantasmic exit music. This was not allowed, but they did play it when people were leaving, which I was very thankful for. But there's a sequence. This is, I guess, the sequence that has changed the most over the years. There's a sequence, a Peter Pan sequence on the Rivers of America in Disneyland, where a boat is going by and everyone's swinging on stuff, and it's amazing. In Disney World, when they were opening it in Disney World, Pocahontas was coming out, the movie Pocahontas, and they were like, perfect, this movie's going to be a huge hit. Let's put a big Pocahontas sequence. Why is this problematic? Because there just aren't that many indigenous entertainers employed at Walt Disney World. So there are like, it's a bunch of white people. It's a bunch of white people doing Pocahontas. And not only that, nobody really gives that much of a shit about Pocahontas for it to like merit having an entire like chunk of this show where it's the only IP we can talk about. It's the only IP focused section of the show. For it to be Pocahontas in like the landmark nighttime show of Disney World is strange. But in Disneyland, it was Peter Pan's Flight, but we've gone back to the New Orleans Square. Look at me, I just tied it all together. We brought it back to like, okay, being cognizant we're in New Orleans Square, it's now a Pirates of the Caribbean themed section of it, and which is like not as whimsical, but still really fun, same kind of acrobatics. If you want to watch Fantasmic, you can watch it. Oh, I should have talked about the fucking dragon. I'm so mad. The dragon has broken down a bunch of times, and they've done like all sorts of different things. When it's bad, it's just a stick and a head on a stick, and it's fucking hilarious. It's terrible. You should watch the video. Okay.
Did Mansion musical? What?
No.
That's a good idea.
What are we doing? What was the answer?
No, somebody mentioned a Haunted Mansion musical. That's a great idea. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Do I begin?
Yeah, go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Buzz Lightyear, there's actually 2 versions of the ride in Disneyland and Disney World. And so there's different ways you can get different high scores in Disneyland and Disney World. I personally prefer the Disneyland version because you get to lift your gun from there and get high accuracy. Where the Disney World one, you're stuck. And they're the same. It's about placement of the
But it's also important to note that in Disneyland, the targets are different shapes, or at least they used to be. They're different shapes, and the different shapes have different point values. So, like, I think like a triangle is worth more than like a circle, whereas in Disney World, you just gotta know which ones have more points.
You just gotta know where they are. And I personally, when I go to play Buzz Lightyear, I will yell sabotage and just spin it to just throw off my opponent because I know where all those targets are. They don't, and I will sabotage them even more.
I ride alone. You fucking kid. I ride alone. I don't let anyone in that car with me.
Double gun it. And it was in 1998 when they introduced it in Disney World, because they got rid of the First in Flight, I think, out towards the right-hand side of Tomorrowland, and it's opposite Star Tours in Disneyland. The line is usually quite short in Disneyland, and it gets a lot longer in Disney World because the whole fast pass system that they have in Disney World is straight trash. Disneyland fast pass system is so much better.
It's important to note also that it's specifically based on Toy Story 2 because Disney didn't make Toy Story. So Disney made Toy Story 2. Disney bought Pixar after Toy Story was made. So it's based specifically on Toy Story 2, but also because the sequence is very much reminiscent of the opening sequence of Toy Story 2 where they're on like a planet and stuff.
Yes, and the music it's great in it.
Oh,
the music is great in the ride, and I always trip on the effing platform every time I go on it. I cannot get on that without tripping on that conveyor belt platform.
And there have been different, I guess we should talk about the prizes too, because there are different prizes throughout the years of if you're a galactic hero. Sometimes it was a button, sometimes now it's a sticker. They're always designing new buttons. There's also lots of nods to the television show, the Buzz Lightyear television show, which I believe is now on Disney Plus or going to Disney Plus. There's lots of little nods of characters that don't exist in the Toy Story franchise, only in this TV show, both after, in the exit area with the gift shop, but also just sort of all around the intro to the ride. There's also characters, and of course there's the Buzz Lightyear animatronic, which if you'd like to, I'll throw it to you, Jess.
Yes, the Buzz Lightyear animatronic was one of the first ones to have the projected faces on, and it's terrifying when they don't work, but I love the projected faces. And the Buzz Lightyear TV show is Patrick Warburton did the voice instead of Tim Allen.
Tim Allen did it originally, Yeah,
he did it for the movie.
It was originally Tim Allen, and then they replaced the voice with Patrick Warburton, which is way funnier. That's an excellent choice. He should have been Buzz Lightyear from the very beginning. That's so funny.
And also, can we talk about pictures for a sec? Because Disney World, you get a nice 4K pictures. Disneyland, taking on a potato.
And I feel like there's an entirely different conversation to be had about Buzz Lightyear in Shanghai, which is a much more like video-based thing, which I think they might have turned into Ant-Man actually now. They might have turned it into the Ant-Man ride. But in Shanghai...
More like Toy Story Mania?
That's it. Kind of. There you go.
Woo!
It's worse with two. It's still way worse with two of us.
I'm going to try to impart as much information as possible so that you go away learning something about as many of these things as I can get in 3 minutes. All right.
Go!
So the Disney hotels. What has to be acknowledged about the Disney hotels is that Walt Disney created an all-new infrastructure. You have a hotel with a train going through it. There isn't much history to be talked about, except that the Contemporary came a little bit later than the others, I believe. But really the thing that has to be acknowledged is Walt Disney revolutionized infrastructure and was going to do it even more in Epcot, which was going to be a flourishing community more than just a hotel. Ant-Man and the Wasp in Hong Kong. This is the new Ant-Man ride that was just a reskin of the Buzz Lightyear ride, which is why people don't like it. But Ant-Man is the anchor of that park, Hong Kong Kong's Marvel Campus. Test Track. It was originally not what it is now, but now it's sponsored by Chevrolet, where you can build your own car. That was not what it was. Originally, it was you were like a test dummy testing on a new car. Now it's very high tech, and it's pretty cool. Pirates of the Caribbean. What has to be noted is a lot of people think that Walt Disney's body is frozen in Pirates of the Caribbean. That's not true. However, there is a real skull and crossbones that was given to Walt Disney as a gift on the headboard in Pirates of the Caribbean. Peter Pan's Flight. I want to talk about Fantasyland dark rides as a whole. Originally, the concept was that you wouldn't see the main characters in those rides because you were supposed to be the main characters, but then everyone was like, we're Snow White! So they had to add all the characters in. Tower of Terror. Let's talk about the elevator system. Are they real elevators? Yes. Is it also a trackless dark ride? Yes, one of the very first of its kind in a Disney park. It was a trackless dark ride inside an elevator. At any given point in time, you're in two different ride systems because it's an elevator that has to be moving faster than freefall, which was not, a lot of elevator companies backed out of that. Mystic Manor, which is the Haunted Mansion equivalent in Hong Kong, which is tied into the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, and it's way better, and it brings back to the core of the Haunted Mansion, which is a magic show. Space Mountain. I don't know what I have to say about Space Mountain, except that at Halloween, it has Ghost Mountain, and also it was a part of a lot of drafts of Tomorrowland before it became what it was, and it was almost going to be outside in this whole thing. Star Tours, there was going to be Lucasport, which was going to be a new version of Tomorrowland that was based on George Lucas movies, headed by Tony Baxter, who ended up making Star Tours, and it was the first IP outside of Disney that was made into a ride. Journey to the Center of the Earth in Tokyo Disney Sea. It has one of the most advanced animatronics of all time, and it is very unique, and it's inside the volcano in the center of the park. Stitch's Great Escape in Walt Disney World, which is gone now. It's just a character meet and greet. It replaced Alien Extraterrestrial Adventure, which was one of the scariest rides of all time. Spaceship Earth. I didn't decide what I have to talk about, except that they're going to update it, except maybe they're not. They were going to update it with a story light. But right now it ends with Steve Jobs in a garage, which is pretty cool. Figment. There's great comic books. I'll talk about the comic books. There's Figment comic books with Dreamfinder, which was the character from the original 80s. You can't find him anymore in the parks, which is unfortunate. Joe Rohde, the legendary Imagineer, played him in a lot of the movies. Mr. Toad. There were lots of riots when they got rid of Mr. Toad in Disney World. It was the first big change that happened in Disney Park. There were huge riots, and then everyone was like, well, okay, that's fine. The Tree of Life is built on an oil rig, which is completely very ironic because Animal Kingdom's whole thing is conservation. It's built on an oil rig. Phantom Manor, which is Haunted Mansion in Paris, which is way dark. It's about a woman named Melanie Ravenswood and her father who wanted revenge, and so he killed her. That was 16. I did 16.
Well done.
Wow.
You did 16 of them?
Yeah, I did 16.
What I'm hearing is you failed?
Yeah, well, yes, by a certain metric, a certain goal I set for myself, yes, but you know what? I hope you all learned something today.
Don't worry, you'll get it next year.
Thanks, Will.
Will? Will? If we are doing...
That's funny.
Wish I had the power to make 600 people watch me rant about my hyperfixation. Yeah,
600. It's 931 on my
it's
end.
931 across YouTube.
Okay,
Please.
ready?
I also have stuff about that.
Also, to be clear, so Josh, normally this is just a feature that Andrew talks for 3 minutes uninterrupted about something at Disney. Here's the thing, though. I guess now Rachel and Sis are also both part of this. So honestly, just we are excluded for 3 minutes. I can't wait.
Love to hear about it.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
You can't talk about Dinosaur without talking about Indiana Jones at Disneyland.
Yes.
Because it's the same ride. It is this, in fact, the same ride system, the same track. Now, Indiana Jones is obviously on a much more grandiose level. Dinosaur is a lot in the dark. There's not as many set pieces, but there are some big fucking dinosaurs. Now, we could talk for all day, and interrupt me anytime, both of you. We could talk all day about movies based on Disney Parks attractions. Haunted Mansion, Country Bears, Pirates of the Caribbean. Dinosaur? What? It's the other way around. No. Here's what happened. Dinosaur opened. It was called Countdown to Extinction. Then they started making the movie Dinosaur. In talks about it, it was going to maybe be called Countdown to Extinction because they wanted the synergy. They wanted it to be based on the ride. But then they made the movie, and then they did all the Iguanodon stuff and put the dinosaur in there. So it is in fact the other way around. The same way that Jack Sparrow was added to Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride, the Iguanodon was added to Dinosaur, but the movie is based on the ride. Does anyone else have anything to say about Dinosaur? Because I feel like I have more, but you can...
No. So I'll talk about the beginning of Dinosaur. So you are thrusted into this amazing museum-like experience.
Yes, very good.
Through the ride queue. And so you're in this really cool dinosaur museum. And then all of a sudden you get to this big screen and boom, the baddest bitch to ever be a bad bitch.
Alicia Rashad.
Beautiful look in this suit combination. And also, is it? No, it's not John Hamm. It's the guy who voices Kronk, right?
No,
No,
that's
that's
Soren. You're
Soren.
thinking Soren. But no, he's excellent. So there's this scientist guy, and he's like, remember those locked coordinates?
He's from a show.
We're in. He's got a dino puppet. He's got a little hand puppet. It's excellent.
He says,
and then-
hello there.
Yeah. And then you keep going. You go on this ride. They did. Oh! I
Wait,
just
no,
remembered.
are you gonna say that?
Sis, I think I say it.
Okay, so when you go through the ride, as you're looking through before you get on your time machine, one fun fact is McDonald's was a sponsor for the ride when it first came out, and so if you look on the tube, it's yellow, red, and white for mustard, mayonnaise, and ketchup.
And it's the chemical combinations of those things written on those tubes because McDonald's. So good. And then you keep going in the ride, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah, first you go
Yeah.
through a toaster, and that toaster is actually a time machine.
It's a
and
time
you're
machine. You're going back in time.
transported
You're in the time
and
rover.
they're telling you like how many seconds you have, how many minutes you have until the asteroid hits. He goes
Because
through
you're
all
going
these
to get
things,
a
and he's
dinosaur.
like, "Not our dino, definitely not our dino, but at least this one's a vegetarian."
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
this
at
one
the
won't
end,
eat
he's
you.
like, "We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. You made it. I knew you
made it."
would. Oh, and look who made it back with you. I better catch him before security does. Thanks for everything."
But before you get out, chasing you, this dinosaur is chasing you out, and he appears right before you go out.
Yeah, and he's so
All right.
scary.
Okay.
That was so
Oh,
good, guys.
man.
That was so good. We did a great.
You, man, Josh, you really were the perfect guest for that. Because
That was
not
perfect.
only because what happens is everybody's soul starts to leave their body after you realize how long 3 minutes is. But then at one point, because your mic is close to your face, this is what comes through.
That felt like five seconds.
My bad.
Yeah, it's a lot. It
We
doesn't
didn't even
feel as
mention
long
Bill
when there's three
Nye.
of
We
us.
didn't mention Bill Nye.
I was completely unaware that the segment is exclusively about rides. I was just out here thinking we were
Yeah.
about to talk about dinosaurs.